and neither of us have picked Trent Alexander-Arnold. So I think in terms of the right-back situation, I just think we've got such a depth of talent, Reece James, Kieran Trippier, Kyle Walker, that Alexander-Arnold's been so poor for Liverpool this season. We both know that Gareth Southgate has overlooked him in the past, and he didn't play in either of the games against Germany and Italy. I just think that it might look a day one in Liverpool who think he's the world's best right-back, a modern-day Cafu, but let's be honest, his defensive performances this season have been awful. So that's why he's not in my squad. I'm pretty sure similar reasons for you.
Yeah, he is currently the fourth choice right back for England, and even in a squad of 26, if you were playing four at the back and he was a little bit further up the pecking order, you could find a way in. But I can't, with Walker playing as the right-sided centre half, and obviously therefore could provide cover at right wing back if you assume they're going to stick with this system. You pick Trippier and James. So if Walker starts as right side centre back, James, you would guess from what we've seen over the last week, is going to be the first choice right wing back. Then Trippier provides your cover there. You don't need another player in that position. It came down for me as a choice between Coady and Alexander-Arnold, and I realised that from a footballing point of view, that's going to sound insane to some people, because there's this sort of clamour to anoint Alexander-Arnold as the new Cafu, as you say. And he's obviously a tremendously gifted player going forward, but there are a number of reasons why I didn't pick him. He's not done it for England, and you can argue that he's not had the chance to do it for England, and that's fair. And I think the criticism of Southgate over Trent would be more relevant a couple of years ago, when he was playing very, very well, Liverpool winning the league, Champions League finals, they were, and they were defensively absolutely rock solid. I could understand that. Now, I mean, I think every Liverpool game I've covered this season, he's made a mistake leading to a goal, and I just don't see how he gets in ahead of the way that Trippier started, the way that Kyle Walker started. And Reece James has come back from injury of late. So it's a tough one, because I appreciate that if he does leave him out, he's going to get an awful lot of stick for it. And he has become, in sort of certain parts of the English media, the celebrated one who needs to be in at all costs. But I haven't looked at England lately and thought, you know what, Alexander-Arnold would fix this. It's just not the problem position. We're talking about probably the biggest strength in depth of any position in the England squad is at right back. So leaving one out, even if some people think he's the best one, I don't think he's the biggest mistake that Southgate could make. And also, when we're talking about Alexander-Arnold versus Coady, Gareth Southgate doesn't want to pick 26 players for this tournament. Let's just make that clear. He doesn't want to pick 26 because he's got this big thing about players that don't play becoming problems around the place, and the wrong messages getting out, and people starting to chat, and they get bored. They're there for 4 or 5 weeks, particularly someone like Qatar. There's not going to be a lot to do. They're not going to be able to get out very much. And that negativity can start to permeate the camp, and he's really mindful of that. And if you've got a player who's not going to play, he'd rather have Conor Coady, who, remember, Steve Holland described as England's player of the Euros, even though he didn't play at all because of what he brought to the group behind the scenes, than someone like Alexander-Arnold, whose character is perhaps not as team orientated as maybe someone like Conor Coady.
I mean, because it's a 26-man squad, there's one element to this, and this is purely, throwing it out there, that if you wanted to include Alexander-Arnold, if Southgate was ever going to go to a 4-4-2, you could put him in right midfield with a Trippier or a Walker behind him at right back. And I do think that Alexander-Arnold, with that security and protection behind him, would be a real asset. But nobody plays 4-4-2 anymore. The only thing is, if you had him in midfield, again, it would cause a lot of questions. Why put him in midfield? He's not a midfielder, but he could fill in the central midfielder spot. He could play at the right. But whether the World Cup is a time to experiment. But the extra 3 players that you can pick, it does open the opportunity to do that, whether you want to carry 4 right backs. But I do think that, because we'll discuss midfield shortly, but the midfield is lacking in options, and he would bring something to that. But again, you don't want to take in square pegs in round holes. But I do think that at some point, Alexander-Arnold, because his defensive liabilities are there for all to see now, he may become a more advanced player. I mean, this is probably one for the older generation, but the Gary Neville, David Beckham access on the right-hand side for England and Man United was fantastic. Alexander-Arnold has the Beckham quality in him in terms of his crossing ability, his athleticism, but he can't defend. So that's where it would work in terms of a strong right back with Alexander-Arnold. But I don't think that Southgate's going to take that risk in a World Cup. I just don't think it's something that he would want to consider.
No, and England are not. England in central midfield has been the problem for England for as long as I've covered them. England do not keep the ball well enough in major tournaments. They don't have. If you go down the years and you think of someone like Pirlo at Euro 2012 or Luka Modric in 2018, even Frankie de Jong to some extent in the Nations League. I know it's only the Nations League, but that kind of midfield pivot that we just don't have someone who can control a game like that. And England have not had it for a very, very long time. And consequently, you can't afford to have one of your central midfielders being dragged out to do the defensive running of a player who's not switched on defensively. And if you watch Liverpool play, particularly when Henderson plays, Henderson is on Trent Alexander-Arnold all the time in Liverpool games. You see him on him and on him and on him, telling him to get into position, doing his running for him, covering that. Now, that's fine in games where you have 65, 70% of the ball and you dominate and it's just a case of trying to break a team down. But when you're England and you're not actually that good on the ball, you can't keep it that well. You're not going to dominate. I mean, what did they have last night against Germany? 40% of the ball, I think, at home. You know, you can't afford to carry someone like that who's not thinking about it going the other way. And I do think part of the issue with Alexander-Arnold is that there's a perception that England, maybe in certain parts of the media, maybe in certain parts of the fan base, are actually better than they think they're better than they actually are. And I think this is a weird scenario where the manager is a bit more reticent about talking them up than maybe certain sections of the media and certain sections of the fan base, because I think he knows, because he's been to, I think he was saying the other day, he's been to 12 tournaments in total, 7 now. This would be 7 as a player or as a coach. He knows the habitual cyclical problems that England have of keeping the ball in the tournament. Look at the final. Look at the Euro final. They didn't keep the ball well in the second half. They started giving it away. They allowed Italy to create that momentum and get back into the game. And that, I think, is one of the absolute cornerstones of his decision making, that, you know, he knows that England have to address this area.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN Plus.